What if at 55 you gave yourself permission to take a gap year or a season? Um, After 38 years of working, and 10 of those spent desperately manifesting my dream to retire at 55, things didn't go to plan in those 10 years. So I had to pivot. And by doing that, I created my own version of retirement at 55, and that was a gap year. Hi, my name is Anna, and welcome to my channel and my very first video. This mini retirement has been possible because of one thing, and that is building my own financial literacy. My biggest motivation has always been choice. Choice, choosing to work full-time, choice to work part-time, contract, or not at all. Over the last 5 years, I've stepped up to really know and control our numbers. And that has finally brought a sense of security for our current situation and for our future. And security for me is my number one why. It is the thing. I've spent a decade trying to make money work harder for us. We're not high income earners, so we couldn't follow some of the usual Australian ways of building wealth, things like multiple investment properties or maxing out on our superannuation. Some years, like in COVID, we put zero into super. We both had lost our jobs. And in our late 40s, when we were really desperate to really try to find avenues to build wealth, we made some really, really bad financial decisions. And I guess one of the key things there is being desperate can really cloud your judgment. That's why I started to learn to help us because of that whole goal that I had of 55, because I could see that we really weren't moving towards that direction. So in 2020, I discovered the FIRE movement. FIRE for Financially Independent, Retire Early. It was a community online. I found them through Instagram, and I really wasn't an Instagram person. But in COVID, we're all at home, and I don't even know how I found it. And I went down that rabbit hole, and I've never come out. So these were people online that were sharing their numbers, sharing how much they earned, all these taboo things, how much they owed for their home loans or any other debt they had. What were their plans? What kind of things were they doing to help make money make money? So that whole, I guess, area that I was so desperate to understand. From learning and getting excited, getting really curious from this FIRE community, I started using some of the things that they were using. Net worth trackers, so finding and doing it monthly. So looking at what my assets were, what the values were of things, what was our current loan or our liabilities, so what did we owe, and seeing how that was changing each month. And it was to give a little bit of excitement, see movement. A lot of the time, really nothing much happened, but once you started seeing, 3 months and then 9 months and then 18 months, you then really can start seeing the change if you really are focused and you are really trying to fix those numbers. So your asset increasing, your liability and loans decreasing, and keeping them under control. It was a really, really, it was an important and exciting journey to keep me curious and evolve. Ask lots of questions to the community, but then once I started getting more information and hearing all this new terminology and things that they were doing, then I would go down the research path. So I would then go and try to find some research for myself. Then they may give me more questions while I research something. So then I would sort of keep those questions close at hand. So then when I spoke to my accountant, I would bring them up with him. Can I do this? What does that mean? Is my tax, will it benefit me in my tax if I did this? I heard it somewhere, that kind of thing. And there was some really fundamental areas that I wanted to delve into, but they needed, to me, because we didn't want to make any more mistakes, I would need to go down the avenue of a financial advisor. So fast forward to 2023, I'd been tracking our net worth, I'd been refining our expenses, understanding and becoming quite intimate with all our expenses, whether they were weekly, monthly, yearly, the ad hoc type, birthday gifts, Christmas gifts, and incorporating all those into our expense buckets. So I got that really fine-tuned over that 3-year period. And then from that, I could see, okay, what kind of year does our expenses look like? How much do we need per year to survive and thrive? I guess it's not just to be at the basics, but understanding what the basics are, then knowing what the extra little things that make a little bit more comfortable for us, and then seeing what would be taken out when the kids, are no longer dependent on us, which then started giving us clear idea of how much we would need when we retire. And then from there, I can then see how much really was going to be enough for retirement. So just by going down a rabbit hole of people talking about their numbers and some of their strategies, and mind you, a lot of these people are in their, say, late 20s, 30s, some in their 40s, but predominantly in their 30s. So it was a little bit of a different ball game with them and what they were doing compared to, so they might have had, a couple of strategies for different phases in their life, in their 40s and their 50s and 60s and beyond. Whereas for me, I don't have those 40s and 50s. I've got my 60s. So it was a really interesting time to be curious, and I learned a lot of new things and honed in and developed a lot more confidence in some of the other things that I'd always sort of dabbled in. So what I'd like to do is talk about some of the things that really changed everything for me or for our family. So 5 things that I had is knowing your expenses, which I touched on a minute ago. So knowing what your weekly, monthly, yearly kind of expenses are, really getting intimate with that. Understanding and defining what your retirement stages are. It's not just all one big bucket once you retire. Understanding that there is different phases or stages to that, and being comfortable with that. That whole what is enough. Knowing what is enough in my retirement fund to give me income, what is enough for us to feel that we're living comfortably and securely. Now that is a really important one, and I guess for me it gave me a lot of peace around that, because I could feel that the numbers that I had put down and simulated and tested and asked questions are numbers that we really could work with and live with as we got older. 4th was setting up financial levers. So this is where originally Australian traditional is buy properties, lots of properties, max out your supers, maybe into stocks and so forth in your own name to build wealth. I've found that there is some levers that you can apply that are very, very simple, regular, and even though they don't feel like you're doing a huge amount to start with, they really do add up. So the 4th one is setting up some financial levers that are automated and being creative. I like to call it creative investing or saving. I might class it as manipulating, but where I'm talking about with this is with those levers. So if I want to get some of my personal tax back, because I have no other avenue, if I'm not negative gearing, I'm not using any other avenues to help get tax back. So if I'm paying $15,000 to $20,000 a year in tax, that's gone. I can't get that back. However, there are things that you can do, some simple ones, and especially when we're in our 50s. So there are things that we can do because we don't have long until we retire. Well, we're allowed to access our retirement funds at 60. So it's not a huge plan. We're not talking a 20, 30-year plan here. It's a 10-year or even less, depending on how old you are. So I was able to tap into my gross income, so that tax that I'm already paying and I can't get back. Once it's gone, it's gone. And being able to pull that back in to my pocket to then make decisions on investing it or whatever I was doing at the time. So sort of getting a bit creative. So once we put all these areas into practice, it felt different. There was less noise and everything started to feel aligned. Everything started to feel that it was all a part of the path. Just didn't feel like I was shooting off here trying to do something with buying a property or throwing some money into a share because I think that will go well, or doing an investment bond for my kids. These are all things that I tried because they sound like they are good ideas, but in isolation, they really don't make the whole plan for your path cemented. So going through those 5 areas, which I'll note in the description, because I really think they're the key ones that I'll delve into in future videos. They helped start making everything aligned to be able to then go back to be able to choose, make choices for our life. So one of the things I did do was to test the waters. So in 2023, I quit my job. I'd been in a job after COVID, so I just took a job because I lost my job in COVID. I took a job in 2020 and then worked at this place until 23, and I was done. I had enough. So I had put a bit of money aside. I had already put a lot of money into my strategies that I was working on from 2020 to 23, and I took 4 months off. I decided that 4 months I could pay myself for the 4 months and also put in money into the family expenses, and I took 4 months off. I was nervous that when I came back from that 4 months, I may not be able to find a job quickly. It turned out well. Within 10 days, I found a job in my industry, I guess, or my expertise, not necessarily the industry. And it wasn't the best job. It wasn't the dream job, which I've got to say, I still don't think I've ever had the dream job for me. But I took it with the goal that now that I'd done that 4 months and had some really good quiet time in that 4 months, I wanted to do it again in 2025, but for a year, in my 55th year. So I literally started the job knowing my goal was that in 2025, I was going to take that gap year. I reviewed my finances weekly, just about 15 minutes or so, just to keep my eye on the prize. I even named my savings accounts with the fund and how much I was trying to get to, because I knew how much I needed to fund that year off because I already know all my expenses. Every week or so, I would transfer money into my gap year fund, and that helped motivate me and keep me focused. So when a decision like new pair of boots or my trip to Greece came in, Greece always won out. So it was really easy to keep focused. So I'm in my gap year now, pretty much 3/4 of the way through. I'm currently sitting in my little studio apartment in Greece. That's another video, but I'm in this little apartment, and basically I started with a few weeks at home, just getting organised and just getting everything cleared up, making sure bills were paid, because then I was going to take a 3-month stint in Greece. So I went for the allowed 90 days in Europe, and spent 3 months here. In that, I was able to take really quick, short trips, nice and economical trips to Budapest, Vienna, and Rome. So after my 90 days in Europe or Greece, I came back home to Australia, and it was really quiet living. So cooking, reading, writing, just being bored. And I know that might sound bad, but I've really discovered that being bored is good. It's the good kind of bored. It's the peaceful kind of bored. It's the nervous system quietening bored. I really enjoyed it. And I kind of even liked Mondays, even though I wouldn't say that out loud because everyone else was working. But I kind of like Mondays. I'm now back in Greece again in my studio, and I'll be here for a few more weeks, and then we'll be going back home for the end of the year. This time of the year in Greece, being the beginning of autumn, is beautiful. It's a slower pace. Everyone's just calming after their summer hurrah on the islands. Shops are starting to wind down, and the water, the ocean, is gorgeous. Warm water, beautiful. So really, really enjoying this second time round in Greece this year. My intention of this channel is to share what I've learned, so you can take charge of your finances, create peace and options in your 50s and beyond. I'm hoping that if I can resonate with one person out there, plant the seed of you also being able to create choice. It's possible only after you've done a little bit of work of really understanding where you're at and what avenues or options are out there for you. There is a bit of, you possibly might call it a sacrifice, because I could have kept working full on, putting a lot of maxing out on super, putting a lot of money into super, reducing my mortgage. I could have done a lot of things like that, bought a new car, gone on some really nice holidays, in general, kind of holidays, bought nice clothes. But I've sacrificed, I guess that, or I've chosen to take a route of possibly not having as much in the retirement kitty as I originally wanted. So not having as much income being generated from that retirement fund when we do retire. However, I realised after the 4 months that I had off in 23 and this year so far, I don't need as much to live off as I thought I did. I don't need to generate as much wealth as I thought I did to make me feel secure, at peace, and in a sense, from an ego perspective, that I've made it. Here's what you can expect from the channel. The honest stories and lessons that I've learnt from my own money journey. Practical steps to build your financial literacy. Simple strategies to make your money work for you. Mindset tools for peace and not pressure. And lastly, a financial toolkit to strengthen your own independence. If any of this resonates with you, I'd love to hear from you. Comment if you like, even what would your idea of a gap year be, or a gap season. Until next time, remember, this is your season and your next chapter, and it's going to be a great one. Let's make it count. So see you in the next one. Bye for now.